Ladies and gentlemen, strap yourselves in, because this is going to be a very long video. Or at least I'll try not to. Welcome to the complicated and controversial history of FIFA's removed features. There is a lot. I can't count how many, but there's at least over like 70 features. And some of these, you will be absolutely stunned. These aren't like subjective, like, oh, the gameplay is bad. No. These are features that existed on the game across the entirety of any of the FIFA history. If it's FIFA World Cup, if it's FIFA Champions League, if it's FIFA from back in FIFA 07, if it's career mode, auto team, normal gameplay, normal little features, extras. This is absolutely everything that I can look up within the last 2-3 hours. I'm sure there's something that I've missed out on, so if I have, tell me down below what it is, and most importantly, tell me what would you bring back if you were able to. If you could bring back one thing, what would you do? I won't keep the intro too long. Let's get straight into it. Let's go. For the cheapest and most reliable coins on the market, go down to u7buy.com. Link is down below in description, and make sure to use code Vizeh at checkout for 5% off. Let's start off with career mode, and 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Staff. There's absolutely no staff in the game nowadays, even though it was back in the game, back in FIFA 07. Facilities. There was also ways to improve your facilities, such as your stadium and also your actual training facilities. That's still not a thing. Sponsors. Sponsors back in FIFA 06, FIFA 07, FIFA 08, FIFA 09. Still not a thing even nowadays. Creation Center. This is when you can not just create a club, but also create every single aspect of the team from players in one club, and can also make your own leagues, can make your own tournaments, and you can't even do all those things still now. Player face scanner. Remember when you could like make a funny player face on your pro, on your virtual pro, or even doing it in your pro clubs? Yeah, you can't do that anymore for whatever reason. Player manager career mode. Self-explanatory. You can go play a career mode as a manager, but you'll also have your own virtual pro in the game. It's been removed since about FIFA 12, FIFA 13. Social media tab. This was a feature from the journey, and we've never seen it ever since, even though they can literally still do it. Request funds. Yeah, this was a thing back in FIFA 15, FIFA 16, and for some reason they got rid of it. Why can't I request funds from my own fucking club? I don't know. Fan affinity score. This was a thing back in FIFA 07, FIFA 06, so you can actually see your fans' affinity to you. How much do they like you? You can't even see that anymore. Team chemistry. There's also no team chemistry as well. It's just kind of like, oh, they're happy of individual players, and that's it. Create a club. Yes, it is back now, but it was removed from the game for over 10 years. Detailed simulations. Yes, this was also back in the game 2 years ago, but it was still gone from the game for over 10 years. Detailed tables. Back in the day, you were able to see a lot of stats of how the season's going, and nowadays, you just get, they win games and draw games and lose games, and there's a goal difference. And that's literally all you get. Internal memos. You may have completely forgot about this, but this is actually you having consistent conversations with you, with your team, or your board after every game, which doesn't exist anymore, really, other than just the odd little conversation with your player, which does absolutely zero impact. Also, alongside this, it actually updates you consistently of how your fan-player affinity has gone up or down all of the board. You don't really get that. It just kind of goes up or down randomly. It doesn't really tell you much about it. Accumulated stats over several seasons. Back in day, you were able to see stats of your players from back in previous years. I don't know how you still can't do this. I mean, it's 2022, boys, but you can't still look back on what your goals and assists was with a player. Not being able to edit a player or change the stats midway through a season. You can kind of do it before the season actually begins, before you load up your career mode, and then you can have your updates. However, you can't just change it midway through a year, other than just like boots and that. Able to change ticket prices. If you want to bring more financial stability to the club, maybe lower down the prices and bring in more fans. Or if you're doing really well, you can actually take a risk and make the prices high. It adds a dynamic to the save, and you still can't do this now, even though you're used to be able to back in FIFA 07. An XP system where you gain XP per game and can use it to improve specific player stats. This was back in FIFA 10, where after a game you got XP, and instead of your player just randomly gaining XP and gaining stats, you can actually individually, specifically select which stats you want to improve. Stadium Director. Yes, in facilities, you also have Stadium Director as well. Manager contracts. Yeah, have you not noticed that you don't actually leave the club unless if you want to leave the club? This isn't a thing in real life. Back in there, you used to get actual manager contracts with lengths of time of 3-4 years, and sometimes if you're not doing well, then they won't renew your contract and you need to get a new job. One annoying thing, managers do not move clubs. Back in there, you used to see new managers go to different teams and also play different tactics and formations. Sometimes you saw teams change the tactics or the formations across the years. Nowadays, it's the exact same formation, it's that same tactic every single season until you end up giving up. Dynamic player potential. What I mean by this is that there's not a select potential that they go to. Let's say you send a player, he stays in the bench the entire time, he still gets to his potential even without any game time, which is stupid. And lastly, for career mode, the contract signing graphic when you sign a player. And I'm sure there's probably many more things that I missed out, but honestly, I cannot be bothered to look even more into it because it's making me quite sad. Into Ultimate Team. Daily knockout tournaments or online tournaments. This was actually a very enjoyable thing of the game and was removed back in FIFA 18. Trade offers, of course, this was moved back in FIFA 15 when EA clamps down on coin sponsors. They still exist. Fitness cards, yes, they used to be fitness and was actually a big part of the game. Nowadays, there's no fitness, it just all starts at 99. Attribute cards, probably a good thing that they removed this, but for some people, it made for some nice, interesting videos. There was also such thing as team morale cards, that your team had a morale, and that if they were on low morale, then they would perform worse than what their stats suggest. And also alongside that, also formation cards, which I believe was removed back in FIFA 13. For them to get higher chemistry, their formation card has to be matching the formation that they actually are playing in. Otherwise, they perform worse. Many in real life stadiums is not actually accessible in FUT nowadays. If you have a look up, for example, Turf Moor, which has been a game since FIFA 15, you can't actually play in FUT. And for many other stadiums, that's maybe like a lower stadium, you're in the football pyramid and not top 6, you can't actually play that in FUT. The duplicate tab, yes, this tab which is in every single World Cup game mode. I don't know why, but it's not actually a thing that you can use in normal FUT. Why that's the case, I have no idea. The collector's album, yes, back in the Champions League 06-07 game, there was a collector's album, a collection book. Why is this not a thing? This would be so cool, man. That was a thing back in 2006, but nowadays we're not good enough for it. Back in Champions League 06-07, there was also such thing as gameplay cards, which look kind of weird. Apparently, they added stats midway through the game and was only available for certain minutes. I'm kind of happy the same game now, but this was a thing that existed. The ability to see your friend's team when playing against them. Why? Why can't I see my friend's team? Like, it just doesn't show me that anymore. The My Club section, I want to see how many players I have in the championship if I want to go and do League SBCs. And I can see each individual team and how many players I have and silver cards and bronze cards easily. Nowadays, you got to go through each team individually and it's so annoying. Why did they remove this? A reward player card from League SBCs. Nowadays, it's just packs and that's really boring for me. The 400 coin bronze pack and the 2,500 coin silver pack. I used to enjoy doing some bronze pack methods. Nowadays, it's still possible, but I just don't know why they removed this, really. A ton of icons removed, like George Weah, Beckenbauer. There's so many more. I think it's like 40 different icons they removed, or legends back in day. A proper tunnel sequence or suspenseful sequence when opening packs. I don't like the fact that you can kind of already tell what the card is instantly. I like the fact I like to have a tell, like FIFA 17, and it's a bit annoying that you just kind of just tell instantly. Single player tournaments and seasons. Yes, there are people that are not that great at the game, and this was very helpful for people that just weren't that good. Online seasons, yes, this was also a thing. Division 10, Division 1, which is basically Rivals, but a lot more laid back. And of course, this was changed to Rivals. Silver cards being good, yes, it's probably not really a feature. However, it was really enjoyable seeing Brazilvas existing and these wacky silver cards that were really good, like Dagmeyer, Michael Liete, Morlos, and of course nowadays silver cards just don't exist anymore. Like, they just are really relevant. Enjoying a game without leaks every single promo. Again, not really a feature, but I would like to go into that and not see what every single fucking player is of the next promo 2 weeks beforehand. Marquee matchups actually being good, because back in day you were able to try to predict what the next marquee matchups would be, and if you guessed it right, you would make quite big money, as it required each team to have one player from each team. Nowadays, they barely even require a player from each team. Maybe it's just a player from like both teams combined, and just makes it not worthwhile at all. The FIFA Generations tab on the web app. This was actually a thing on the web app that you get to like make a team of several other FIFAs, and I don't know why they just don't do it anymore. The date of when a card was packed. This was actually a thing that used to exist, and he got rid of it because EA got caught out just spamming Pele's on the market because no one ever packed them. Information of players' stats other than goals. Back in the early days, back in FIFA 11, FIFA 10, they actually gave you stats other than just goals, assists, games played, and it was a lot more detailed. The ability to have a secured account without EA live chat giving away your private information. Yeah, it's not really a feature, I get that. It shouldn't be a feature because it should be blatant common sense. Oh wait, you think that's it? Oh no, there's so much more. There's so much more. Let's get stuck into this. This is just normal things. The Classic 11 doesn't exist. This was really cool. It was like a full icon team basically, and that's no longer a thing. Practice matches. The arena is pretty much just ignored completely, and back in the day, they actually had 11v11 modes or 11v1 modes, so just playing as a goalkeeper. You can just customize it whichever way you want. Classic kits. Why is this not really a thing? Yes, they may add a classic kit as a SBC in FUT, but in grand scheme of things, it's not really available in any other game mode, and I don't know why. Practice set pieces in the training area. I don't know why, but you can't do this anymore. You used to be able to just plop the ball in on the pitch and take a free kick and practice that. You can't do that anymore, and I don't know why. Speaking of set pieces, set piece routines. These are actual cool little routines that you can practice and perform it in game. Nowadays, it's just these strict things that you can only do, and there's not real any creativity to it, really. Retro mini games. There was actually a thing called EA Sports Retro that back in FIFA 03, you was actually able to play retro versions of FIFA within that version of the game, which is fucking sick. Scenario mode. This is more specific to World Cup modes, and you actually could do real life scenarios that happen in real life, and that you can go and try perform it in game. Another game mode, Captain Your Country. Yes, again, it's more for World Cup modes, but I do think it's cool to just do Captain Your Country in normal FIFA to try and put a bit more, emphasis on national teams, because that's not really a thing that you see that much. The next two is strictly from World Cup game modes, but basically it's every single country in the world, and also their national anthem. You were able to play every single country in the world. If you wanted the British Virgin Islands, you can play as them, and also have the national anthem, which is, well, the British anthem. A Champions League stadium. Yes, back in 06-07, they had a Champions League stadium, like the iconic stadium. You actually used to have it, and they could have it nowadays, as they have their licensing. They just don't do it for some reason. Unique intros. Have you not noticed that FIFA nowadays, it's just a single frame, just like photo of like the title of the game, and that's it. Back in the day, there was really cool in-depth intros. Going back as far as FIFA 02, FIFA 03, they had these really cool intros of Thierry Henry and Edgar Davids and Ronaldinho doing skills, and there was this amazing music in background. Or even earlier, in the FIFA 10, FIFA 12, FIFA 13 era, you at least had some sort of intro of Wayne Rooney doing a bicycle kick, or Messi doing a bicycle kick, or just something. Nowadays, it's just, okay, here's just a frame of a title. It's so boring, man. Customizable menus based on the teams that you support. For example, FIFA 12, FIFA 13, what the team that you support, change the color of the menu. For example, if you support Dortmund, it'll be a yellow theme to the actual menu. Alongside that, stadium backgrounds. You had actual stadiums that you could customize on every menu, and you could change it based on if you're FUT or career mode or in the main menu, and that is no longer a thing since. In terms of licenses, we got to mention the Serie A licenses such as Juventus, Lazio, Roma, Atalanta. One massive thing, the EAS catalog. Yes, you remember that? That was a huge part of the game where you could actually go in there and change a bunch of features, give yourself extra bonus points for FUT, for head-to-head seasons. Oh yeah, by the way, head-to-head seasons, that still does exist. Yeah, you probably forgot about that as well. You could unlock classic kits, unlock classic boots, unlock classic balls, give yourself financial takeovers or a Wonder Kid in career mode. You could do many things with the EAS catalog, and I had about 1.4 million EAS coins, and they removed it, so it was a complete waste of space for me. Momentum, yes, back in FIFA 06, 07, 08, you had these bars next to your scoreboard that went up and down based on the momentum of the game, and we think that this is removed, but that's still debatable. EA Sports Radio, for example, back in the 2014 World Cup, in the actual World Cup game mode, you had these cool EA radios, where you had these radio stations just talk about football in a very just loose fashion, talk about real life events that's going on in the world, and I think that's really cool. It adds an element of realism that, and immersiveness that you don't get. Most people play FIFA with it muted, which is really upsetting. Speaking of muted, most people don't even listen to the soundtrack anymore, literally. Like, I don't mind the soundtrack that much as shit, but it doesn't remind you of like a football game. Like, look back on FIFA 07, FIFA 05, FIFA 06, just listen to the music of that game. It had a proper vibe to it. Before you go play a game, you can actually play in the stadium, do a one-on-one with the keeper before the game actually starts. If you're playing as Arsenal, if you're playing against City, playing against Burnley, playing against anyone, the actual stadium changes to what you're playing at before the game, which you don't get nowadays. Now, you ain't gonna believe what I'm gonna say here, okay? Just look at what you're seeing on your screen. This is something called EA Sport Extras, and this had season highlights of the season before the previous in Europe's top leagues. You can see a real-life season highlight of the Premier League, Ligue 1, Serie A, Bundesliga. This is a thing that was back in FIFA 06, FIFA 07, that you got not just a recap of what happened in real life of the season previously, but also exclusive interviews with the world's best players. Here is a Samuel Eto'o interview that's in FIFA 06, I believe, or maybe 7. I think it's FIFA 06. You got a Samuel Eto'o interview. because he, I presume, was an ambassador of EA Sports, and you can see interviews, and I think that's so cool. Why don't we get this nowadays? Like, an EA Sports Extra, you can see recaps of the season beforehand, and there's so much more. Martin Tyler and Alan Smith. Yeah, I don't need to say much about that, do I? A trophy room. You actually had a trophy room for how well you do in the game. It was basically a way to, like, show achievements, and, yeah, this was a thing back in the day. Bonus materials. There's actually a bonus material into the 2002 Korea World Cup, and it just gives you more of an insight of the culture of the area, and I think this would be really cool for other countries that people may not know about. Up next, again, you won't believe this, but they had FIFA quizzes. Back in the PSP, I think it was the 06-07 Champions League, but it was on PSP only. They had a FIFA quiz that you could just go and do FIFA quizzes, and it was almost like a game mode that, like, if you get it wrong, then you don't score, and if you may concede. And again, this may seem really stupid, but, like, I think that, why is this just... It's these little things that makes it feel like, yo, they've actually put more effort into it. It makes it feel like they've done a bit more than just a normal reskin. Now, sadly, I've not got much about Pro Clubs because, to be fair, they've not really done much of it since FIFA 12, so they didn't really remove much, they just don't add much to it. That's the issue with Pro Clubs. But don't forget, back in FIFA 15, they didn't have Pro Clubs on the PS3 or Xbox 360. They did this on purpose to try and force people that wanted to play Pro Clubs to go and buy a new console. Up next, this is kind of a big one, but yeah, the Journey. Not much to really say. The Journey, yeah, it's been removed. Not really a bad thing because I guess the story was ended, but yeah, it's not in the game anymore, is it? So there you go. Features that was on FIFA Street, such as Last Man Standing, such as Panel Rules, these aren't a thing that's in Volta. FIFA 15 Matchday Live, where you can go and play alongside the real life season, so in Premier League. A FIFA City, yes, this may not really count, but on career mode anyway, you actually had like a FIFA City. I know it's the Wii, but this was a thing that existed, so I guess it's something. I can't believe I'm saying this, but on the Wii, on FIFA 11, they had a feature where you actually had like a cover athlete, where like your player, your pro, so if they did a pro player career mode, they were on the cover of FIFA and on magazines and that. And I can't believe that FIFA 11 on the Wii has a feature which isn't in nowadays. I can't believe I'm saying that. So there you go, boys. I think that is everything. I'm sure there's something that I missed out on. I'm sure there is. If I did, tell me down below. And most importantly, if you could bring back one thing from this video, then tell me what it is. Smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys next time for another video. Stay safe and peace out.